All right, welcome back to Lockbox Lunatics. I'm Chad Kamp here in sunny Chandler, Arizona, with my cohort Steve Lambert up there in Washington, wishing he was down here in Arizona. Steve, welcome.
Thank you very much, Chad. I'm up here in the perpetually overcast, gray, and slightly cold state of Washington for today.
Oh, better you than me. Now we have a special guest, and I'm extremely excited about this guest. Learned a lot from him for the last couple years, Mr. Bob McKinnon. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello,
If you,
Bob.
hello, Bob. Hey, now you're down in Texas, right?
I'm in Dallas, Texas. It's a bright sunshine, 70-degree day today. In
Excellent.
fact, somebody here, I didn't get the memo, but we've decided to just cancel winter. I mean, it's been very mild.
We've been fortunate for the state of Washington. I will say we've been very, very lucky. It was 59 the other day, and then another day was 58. I know those numbers seem small to a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah,
people, but that's crazy making for us. That's shorts and t-shirts weather.
yeah.
It's been a very mild winter, which I'm very thankful for. Not a winter fan, so.
So, Bob, just for our viewers, so they get an understanding of exactly who Bob McKinnon is, you're well known in the industry, but there may be some individuals that haven't been around as long or just don't know. Go ahead and share your experience in the industry with us, if you wouldn't
Oh
mind.
my gosh, where do I start? I've been a realtor for 53 years. Yes, 53 years. I started in 1972, actually, 72 and 73. I started as a real estate salesman in a small independent office in California. Most of my practicing real estate was done in California. I've been a California realtor and for many, many years. After I retired from that, I moved here to Texas. But I met a couple of guys from Los Angeles that said, "Hey, we're going to start something new. You want to help us?" And Bud and John invited me down to LA. They had just gone to a meeting, by the way. Red Carpet existed at the time as a national franchise.
Oh,
These guys were going to start a whole new franchise. They didn't have a name for it. They're meeting at a Denny's coffee shop in La Cienega Boulevard, and they said, "What do you want to call it?" One guy said, "Let's call it Green Valley Realty." And one of the guys says, "Man, that sounds like a funeral home for crying out loud." The guy says, "I got an idea." John says, "Let's call it Century 21." And what? That's got a nice sound to it. He says, "Where'd you get that idea, John?" He pointed across. He said, "See across the street there? There was a Century 21 hamburger stand." No kidding. They got the name from a hamburger stand. Now
That's awesome.
they had their legal counsel. He went right across the street and got the guy to sign the release. So we became Century 21 that day.
That is awesome. I mean, when you're struggling to find a name, you never know when or where inspiration will hit, but a lot of times it does
Exactly
hit
right.
through the belly, right?
Exactly right.
You-
So, for 28 years, we had the very first region in Century 21. It was in Los Angeles. And so we started listing and started selling franchises and building that company. I was there for 30 years. I had gone all the way up to corporate and became part of a team that helped us help open Century 21 internationally. And so I got to see it from the ground floor up to the huge company it is still today. So, I have been in real estate sales, been in franchising, I've been in coaching for some years, and I now am the director of leadership for Exit Realty International.
Oh,
Now
that's
that means I am trying my best to bring tools, services, and thought to real estate brokers to really develop stronger leadership. I've been a realtor for a long, long time, and we struggle sometimes with consistent leadership. So that's my job.
That's awesome. Well, Bob, we can attest and vouch for you. You're doing a wonderful job. We feel very fortunate to be within the same organization as you. And this podcast is open to everybody. So those of you listening, don't get scared about that. But Bob is a tremendous resource that we are able to greatly benefit and grow from within the Exit family, and we're very grateful for that. And I think it's
Thank
fair to
you.
say that there's probably not much you haven't seen in this industry.
No, I have gotten to see nearly every major brand out there from its beginning, competed with it, competed with them, and watched the industry change. And it's getting kind of cranky. The real estate business has been cranky now for a good 2 years. I mean that whole lawsuit thing and the settlement thing and the new contract thing and Lord of mercy, and then you got a 2.5 year recession that takes 30% of the money out of this business. I mean, it ain't even fun anymore for crying
Yeah,
out loud.
it's
And
been a challenge.
It's tough. It's tough.
and
Yeah, but I've seen it before. This is my seventh recession to go through, and so far I'm still here.
Well, and what's really interesting is a lot of, there's more changes coming down the pike within the industry as well with all this talk of mergers. We talked
Yeah,
about that a little bit before the phone call. So,
yeah.
someone who's been around and has seen quite a few things, I'm interested to hear kind of your take and to share with our viewers kind of your take on the mergers, the pros and the cons of that.
These mergers are totally unique to this industry. I mean, we've had it before where companies have merged, and M&A is not a new concept, but at this level, it is.
Right.
I've never seen anything like it. And so when you have Compass come in with their business strategy, and they say we're going to buy anywhere realtors, I mean that's a huge deal.
Yeah.
Um, And then, there's rumblings of other mergers that are coming along. I hear them in the hallways, and I'm not going to mention some and speculate, but there's another major merger. You see, just like the auto industry did, and some years ago, it went from several different brands, maybe seven or eight, down to three, the big three.
Right.
Well, now here we're looking at real estate going to the big three or the big four, and that's different. That is very unique. Quite frankly, I have no idea how that's going to play out. But here's what I do know. And you ought to write this thought down, but change creates regressive behavior. Change creates
Mm,
regression. So what happens? Big mergers, big this, big that, and so everybody kind of recoils. We all pull back and like, we kind of freeze like deer in the headlights. I think this merger is interesting in the sense that what we had happen about 3 years ago is big Wall Street money came into our industry, and it's just wreaking havoc with the old structure. So what do you do with great big pods of money with companies who can organize and operate for many 6, 7, 8 years and not make a single profit? How do I compete with that? And then that energy starts to want to buy and merge with other companies. Here's the answer, Chad. It depends on who you are, how this merger is going to affect you.
right.
100%. Well, Bob, I love that you bring that up because we've seen a lot of mergers and acquisitions, like you said, in other industries, and it's fascinating because you'll have a lot of small players, out there in the industry that are doing their thing, and they get merged, go through these M&As and they build and they build, they build, and then you have two or three top players sitting there at the
Yeah,
highest level. Then you get people get disenfranchised, get frustrated with the level of service, both from a client perspective, internal, external clients, and then you see them start to fracture. And then these three or four people go off and start a small company. These people start off, and then you end up with multiple companies again, and the cycle repeats itself. Right? It's very cyclical
sure
to
does.
watch that happen in industry. But like you said,
Yeah.
this one's a big one, and so it's going to be interesting. So when you look at this, because I like I said, I love how you talked about the regression with that. How do you think that's going to, what do you think the overall industry impact is going to be? And you can touch on this from as macro or micro level as you'd like to, from everybody from, franchise, corporate owners, franchise owners within these organizations, as well as down to the agent level, broker level. What do you think they're going to feel or experience with this? And what is that level
First of
of
all,
concern going to do to them?
first of all, nobody actually knows.
Yeah.
We know that the merger's happening. Now, the next
Yeah.
step is once it's all approved, and that's still kind of iffy, but once it's all approved, now then the announcements are going to happen of here's how we're going to operate. I have no clue. I tried to second guess. I called some friends of mine who are in and out of the know, and quite frankly, everybody goes, I don't have an idea. But what we do know is that these companies with a lot of money and they merge, it creates a huge, huge amount of power.
Yeah.
Now,
Most
you
of it,
know,
right.
and there's already talk of maybe private MLS systems where we will share, we will have ours and not share with the rest of the people or whatever, how that goes. If it creates that kind of power,
Yeah.
that these companies can begin to really play with sharp elbows with the fellow realtors. You know, having been a realtor all these years, one thing I know is I love real estate and I love realtors. You know, and I don't care who merges with who or what. Here's all I know is at the end of the day, I'm a hyper local business. This is one of the most hyper local businesses ever. And I don't know that it matters to the consumer who owns what.
Yeah.
I think what's going to happen is the realtor and the real estate company that still says, I'm going to win the day in my community.
Right.
I'm going to be very active in my community. I'm going to be a member of the board and I'm going to be a member of the chamber and I'm going to walk and talk amongst the people of my town. And we're going to have good people, train good people that know how to do real estate. And I'm going to be hyper local. Quite frankly, not only we not know, Steve, what's going to happen and how it's going to operate, I have no clue. And quite frankly, I hope they do.
Well,
Uh,
yeah, yeah, we kind of all hope that. Like you said,
you
I think
know, but
you know,
but
yeah,
however it shakes out, now there's other guys that are pretty mad at it. You know, I've been in Century 21 for most half my life, and I've got some Century 21 buddies that are a little upset. Like, wait a minute, whoa, 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 whoa. You know, but if you're in Century 21, I mean, things started changing dramatically when Henry Silverman came in and bought the company. And
yeah,
it's been change after change after change after change ever since then. And that
yeah.
was 1998. I was
Wow.
there. I met with Henry. I was part of that. But once that happened, Century 21 has just uh, been changing. It's been changing in everything except maybe the old culture of the company. I still
Yeah.
Right.
have a gold coat. It still fits.
Now, I think I agree with you on one aspect, Bob. The consumer, in my 20, 3 years of being in real estate, I know Steve's been in the business for a while. The consumer, I don't think really cares the broker name, the brokerage name. They care about the level of service, right? And so I think the component that may change is whenever if they go to a private MLS, it's going to be access to the data, is how the consumer may or may not be impacted by this. I think the bigger impact is going to be, and correct me if you disagree, and that's fine, is to the agent themselves. So the agent's going
Yes.
to have some sort of different parameters that are set for them and how they're operating business. But from the agent perspective, as long as you continue, like you said, continue to reach out to your community, that agent shouldn't be impacted because they're still doing what they need to do to generate business and to serve their clients. And as long as that serving the client is top, is at the top of the agent's perspective or goal, the consumer is not going to see too much of a change other than maybe how they access data. It's going to be more agent specific is in regards to how that broker serves that agent.
Yes, most of the offerings from the company to the agent is primarily technological tools,
Hmm.
Right.
tech tools as far as an agent's ability to market themselves, to manage their data, to build their own personal brand by using the technology. Now, we all have been competing with that. I remember when Gary Keller says, "Hey, we're as much a technology company as we are a real estate company." He said that like 4 years ago. That's going to impact our companies. They're going to have technological tools of managing data, managing information, managing listings, and we're all going to have our elbows out trying to protect what we've got. And I don't think that's healthy for the industry. I still like my competitors. I'm not no. I'm reserving judgment.
Right.
Well, I think you brought up some interesting things there, Bob, too. There's the the DOJ, and there's a lot of things that have to jump in for this merger to get in there, and it could very potentially, because of private MLSs and things like that, set up a complete monopoly within the industry, which is super unhealthy for everybody, right? Especially the consumer. And we've had a lot of things driven changes, I guess I'd say, within our industry based upon in my opinion, the guise of consumer benefiting the consumer when they've been actually pretty anti-consumer. At the end of the day, the way they roll out, I feel like, but you know, it is interesting because I remember one of the sayings that when I used to be in medical sales way back in the day, and we had heavy tech in that, the data is only garbage in, garbage out, right? So it's
Yeah.
only what you do with that tech, and to Chad's point, it's how the agents are going to interact with the people. But my concern, I guess, overarching is for the consumer, because they're so data centric right now. They're so self sufficient in digging up information and looking for homes and things like that. I have just the little bad guy sitting on the one shoulder sits there and says, well, they're doing this because they want to force people to say, well, I need to go to these agents in order to see the entire market, and if you're not part of that, then I'm not going to be able to see the whole market, right? That's a little bit of an interesting
No,
doubt to introduce.
it's frightening. It creates concern. Although I've seen that before, and being in Los Angeles back that so long, we saw a major player in LA, the Old Forest Fields and Company, got so big that they decided they would get out of MLS. So they did that for they left MLS. They would not share their listings with anybody. So it was this one big company and all these little guys. Well, guess what happened? That started Century 21. When the big guy, so it's going to create opportunities. Now, here, when this kind of stuff happens, when the elephants fight, the ants suffer. Now, I'm not sure what's going to go on at the elephant size of this thing, but I'm just an ant down here trying to build my business, build my company. Branding is become less and less important as far as company branding to the consumer. I mean, used to say, man, Century 21, we had $22 million annual advertising budget, and we had a big brand. I think the consumer, if the consumer is still loyal, they're loyal to the local realtor that's bringing them an apple pie recipe, for crying out loud. As silly as that sounds,
Yep.
the local realtor that I know because I'm in the Chamber of Commerce with them, or I'm in this group or that group. I know that realtor. I see their signs all over town. I still believe there's just so much room for that to be the game.
Oh, I think I agree. I think Chad and I have talked about this ad nauseum as well. And I think that it's still, at the end of the day, the consumer doesn't care. Like you said, they don't care about the tech stack. They don't care about your cool commercials or whatever your colors are, or your logo, or how neat you think you are within the industry. They ultimately want to say, hey, can you help me find and meet my needs or exceed my needs within the real estate industry in terms of, as a consumer, whether it's buying, selling, or
Right.
investing, right? And they're just like,
Exactly right.
if you can help me align with my needs and do it in a way that makes me feel good, you're professional, and I feel confident and well represented, that's who I want to go with. And I don't care what company you're with. So to that
Yeah.
extent, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, at the end of the day, whenever an agent helps a consumer or a client or a customer get into a home, depending on the time of life that that consumer is in, let's just say that it's a young couple starting a family, in 15, 20 years, when their children are sitting reflecting on that home, are they going to remember Chad helped me get into that home? Or are they going to remember, hey, it was Exit Realty Coannah that did that?
Yeah.
And if I was a betting person, and what my hope and prayer is that they look back and they say, hey, Chad's been a great agent for us. He's the one who
Yeah.
helped bring, get us into that home. And then they're going to have all their other memories about the house as well.
Exactly right.
So
Now,
that's
here's
my
what I
goal.
am excited about, guys. No matter what's going on, Just an hour ago, I got this latest email from NAR, from Realtor News. Headline: The momentum of the market has been waiting for. Existing home sales jumped 5.1% in December, the strongest reading in nearly 3 years. Now that is exciting.
That is.
That is phenomenal. A lot of agents have been waiting for that.
Heck
Yeah.
yeah. Heck yeah.
Yeah.
My son is a mortgage guy here in Dallas, and he's reported to me just yesterday. He said, "Dad, man, it's just gone nuts. Back through November, December, it started going like crazy." He said, "Man, we've got lots of new sales, lots of requests for new mortgages." He says, "Man, Dallas is just lighting up." So that kind of news really excites me. Now, how we organize this business, you know, I really can't overemphasize that the hyper local tendencies of this business will save my bacon every time.
Oh,
100%.
I mean, I
sure.
don't know how many times, Steve, I've said, "Oh my God, that's the end of the world." I mean, we're just screwed, man. I've said that in my career. I don't
Right?
know,
We run it.
hundreds of times.
We run across these things. Well, we don't want to take up all of your time, but I will ask you a couple final thoughts. So if I'm a newer agent looking to get into the business, keep my blinders on, ignore the noise, right? Stay focused on where you truly feel the culture and training is going to be best for you and your clients. But what would your final kind of parting message be about all this shenanigans going on?
A new agent, if I'm a new agent and I tell people, if you're going to be an interview a lot of people and ask just one question. Tell me the tools you have that are what are you going to do to help me be your top salesperson?
Okay.
I'd want to know. Now, quite frankly, fancy CRMs and big computer projects and all this stuff, I'm not sure that that is the answer. We did business a long time without that stuff, but I think it's support. And the brokerages like yours and Chad's, I mean, you're building your companies to have a support system for these agents that says you come in here, you plug into our operating system, you plug into our tools, and you listen to us. We are going to help you become a successful real estate agent. Now, the rest is up to you. A lot of these people have pretty weak batteries. I tell brokers all the time, when you open a package with a new realtor in it, it better have batteries included. Uh, stay
That's a
out of
great
the bat,
analogy, Bob.
stay out of the battery business. Hire people that's got them.
That's a great analogy. Well, first off, Bob, I want to thank you for your time. I know your time is valuable and we really appreciate you joining us today. For those viewers, Bob gave us a lot of good tidbits in there. Please like, comment, and share this podcast. If you have any recommendations on future topics, please put those in the comment line. And as for now, we'll go ahead and sign off. And again, Bob, thank you so much for your time.
You guys are worth it. See
Awesome.
ya.
Thank you.